Hey there, good people, it's your Crippled Critic, and I'm back this week to review the game Rez Infinite. So Rez Infinite is both an on-rails shooter and a music and rhythm-based game on the PS4. The game has you in a supercomputer which is controlled by an advanced AI named Eden. Eden starts to doubt her own existence and enters a shutdown sequence. You, the player, are a hacker that logs into the system in order to reboot Eden while destroying any viruses or firewalls that appear. This is really the bulk of the story, as most of the story in Rez is understood through gameplay. Describing Rez is kind of difficult, that's why I recommend experiencing it for yourself. Rez Infinite was originally a game just titled Rez that was released on the PS2 and Dreamcast back in 2001. It was recently re-released and remastered on the PS4, given the new name Rez Infinite. For this new version, they also added new levels and VR support. Rez was originally published by Sega, but the remastered version, Rez Infinite, was made by Enhanced Games, led by co-founder and lead designer Tetsuya Mizuguchi. Tetsuya Mizuguchi worked on other rhythm and music-based games like Space Channel 5 and Child of Eden. Mizuguchi was inspired by a lot of different things when making Rez, but his biggest inspiration is the idea of synesthesia. If you've never heard of it, synesthesia is a rare neurological condition that allows for the blending of the senses, like hearing color and seeing music. On the visual side of things, Mizuguchi was inspired by Russian painter Vasily Kandinsky, who was a known synesthete. He frequently painted the sounds that he saw in order to produce abstract works of art. On the gaming side of things, Mizuguchi was inspired by old shoot-'em-up games he played back in the 80s in high school. Games like Xevious and Xenon 2. He said that the game's sound effects were like music to him, and gave him the idea that games as an art form can exist. As far as music goes, he was inspired by a variety of different sounds from all over the world. From European EDM concerts, to Japanese drumming festivals, to street performers in Kenya. Music was very important to the development of Rez. When making Rez, Mizuguchi talked about the syncing of rhythm in order to make one feel good, and it helped him perfect the mechanics of Rez. So the great news is, there are plenty of optional controls for Rez. When I first played this remaster, I was worried that the controls would be changed from the original. Like many ports, sometimes developers attempt to modernize the controls, but I was hoping for at least the option to go back to the original controls. Thankfully, the controls are basically identical to how they were on the PlayStation 2. You just aim with the left control stick and press X to fire. You can also hold X to lock on to up to 8 different enemies, then let go to fire. You'll also be pressing the circle button occasionally to do something called the overdrive. Overdrive kills all enemies on screen for a short period of time. This is more of a power-up item, so it is optional. Even with these simple controls, Rez comes with an in-game option to change these controls if you like. You can change the fire button to another button if you like, and you can also change the overdrive button. And although vibration is a big part of interacting with the music in the game, if you find it too distracting or too intense, you can turn it off. Now Rez does require a lot of quick movements during gameplay, but if this is too much for some people, there is another mode that Rez offers called Traveling Mode. Traveling Mode basically makes you invincible, as you won't die or even take damage. So if Rez requires too much quick movement or difficulty is too high, you're a casual gamer, or you just want to enjoy the game stress-free, I recommend this mode. As far as my level of difficulty goes and my personal preference for control options, I couldn't ask for better. Giving gamers several different playstyles to choose from is why I think that disabled gamers with fine motor skill impairments should have a very easy time playing this. Now, as positive as I was about the control options for Rez, the audio and visual side of things are going to be a problem for some disabled gamers. Yeah, unfortunately, Rez's visuals are all over the place, literally. The visuals in Rez are stunning, but they're also very bright and lots of flashing lights, so I think it's pretty obvious I'm going to give this a seizure warning, at least for people who are sensitive to that sort of thing. On top of that, colorblind players will most certainly have some trouble when playing Rez. The basic gameplay should be fine, but where they'll have trouble is picking up certain power-up items. In Rez, your character's avatar goes through certain levels of evolution as you progress through the game. You start out as a pulsating spear, and as you level up, you'll start to look more humanoid. There are about 5 different stages of evolution, I believe. Anyway, in order to upgrade your avatar and evolve it, you need power-up items, and there's 2 different kinds of power-up items. One for the overdrive function, and one to evolve. The 2 power-up items are virtually identical, and the only way to tell the difference between them is their color. The power-up for evolution is blue, and the power-up for overdrive is red. It's already pretty difficult finding these items because in Rez so much is being thrown at you at once, so colorblind players will have no way of differentiating between the 2. If that concerns you, I just recommend trying to grab as many items as you can, regardless of what type of power-up they are. Either that or pick the traveling mode and don't worry about picking up items at all. For gamers with hearing impairments, Rez is kind of a mixed bag. On the one hand, unlike most games, Rez contains almost no sound effects or spoken dialogue. Instead, the game is set to electronic music, which plays in the background and gradually gets more intense as the player progresses. So for deaf players, this is good because they won't have to worry about subtitles or dialogue. It's just that so much of Rez's gameplay revolves around music, and if you can't hear anything, you just won't experience it the way the game is meant to be experienced. Now, there is a vibration function that goes along with some of the things you do, but I don't think gamers with hearing impairments will get as much out of it. Still, the game is playable without sound, it just won't be the same. Lastly, I want to mention the level that was added to the PS4 version of Rez, and it's exclusive to this remaster. After beating a few levels of Rez, you can unlock a level called Area X. Not only is Area X the best looking graphically, but they've also added new features and buttons. R1 can now be used to push your avatar forward faster, like a boost. Also, Area X is the only level that allows you to move your character in any direction you want, including behind you. This can be nice when you're attacking fast-moving enemies on this level, but it can also be a little jarring if you're not used to this perspective and you're used to the on-rails type levels of the other areas. I feel like the freedom to change your perspective would work a lot better in VR mode. Still, Area X is really fun, the soundtrack is still awesome, it's just a little different. I'm so happy I got to play this amazing game from my childhood, and I honestly wouldn't have expected them to remaster such an obscure game, but I guess it shows that Sony understood its value. It's such a trippy and exciting ride playing this game, and it's still super fun after all these years. The Synesthesia side of Rez fascinates me greatly, and as an adult now who understands these kinds of things a little better, I wonder how much of the gameplay was tailor-made for people with synesthesia, or if the experience was just meant to show you what it's like to have this ability. Really interesting, and I want more games like that. I'm thoroughly impressed with the control options for Rez, though it is unfortunate that gamers with hearing impairments won't get the same experience playing this game. However, I think that's just the nature of music and rhythm-based games. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.